Dana Taylor here with Dainty Acres Italian Greyhounds. Hey, I want to show you here in the studio what your leash looks like. I thank you so much for supporting Dainty Acres and choosing Dainty Acres for your show lead, but I thought I'd kind of show you behind the scenes on what your show lead looks like before it's a show lead. I choose the 1/8 inch leather lace. I work only with leather. I use cow leather. The black, I have 3 colors because I've just found that they're consistent. I like the black, the caramel color, and the chocolate color. Along with those materials, I have split rings, I have jump rings, and I have beads. Here's the end of the leather. This is where I'm going to start. I'm going to start by setting in place the split ring. This is going to be the one end of the leather leash. There'll be 2 ends and 2 split rings. One at the end that attaches to the martingale and one at the end that attaches to the handle. This is going to be a 3-foot lead. To start the lead out, I have to put a split ring in place, but I like to laminate it where I actually weld it with glue so that that split ring is set in place. And then I have a special technique that I use, and I'll walk you through that. I want my leather leads to have integrity, which means that they don't break or that they don't come apart. The flexibility of the leather, the braided leather, is why I choose to do this as my show leads. I want my dogs to run on a long lead, but I want them to have flexibility in the lead so they don't ever come up against it and get jerked. Okay, I promised that I would share with you my technique. So right now, after I've done that laminating, I'm now feeding all my beads in. I want this is going to be 3 leather strips, but it's all going to be done in one long strip. So that means I'm going to have to feed it through. So I'm starting with my beads so that my beads are in the right place. So I've got them now on and in the right place. And I have a certain order that I like them in. But don't worry about my order. Let's just talk about how to get the braid started. The first bead that you want is a bead that sets up there where I just had laminated that split ring. I have fed the leather lace through the split ring and back down around, and you can see that I've fed the leather lace back up and it's going up again towards the very first split ring that I had set in place. As I go, I'm going to have to massage the leather to get those 3 pieces to be the same length, and I'm massaging these beads and jump rings as I go so that I can get 3 equal parts. The very last piece, the loose piece, is going to be about 3 inches longer than the other. But for right now, just work with me and we're going to just get those pieces up. So you can see that I'm finding my flat spot, feeding the jump ring through, and then I'm going to feed the bead through. This setup takes longer than any of the rest of the part. I could take up to an hour of just setting this stage up. I want my beads in the right place. I want my leather in the right place. I sometimes forget and put the wrong number of them in, so I have to redo it. So take your time on this one. Be willing to give it some time if what you're wanting to do is make your own leather leash. If not, I do encourage you to reach out to us here at Dainty Acres and look at our Etsy account or come into Reflection Outpost and check out our inventory of in-stock leashes. These are for a small dog. It's a little harder to find a leash the right size and the right weight and the right strength for a small dog. So I'm specifically targeting the small dog here. All right, now I've finally got my 3rd piece up through the jump ring, fed through, and now I'm going to feed it back into those jump rings and the bead that I've got in place. So you can see why this is going to take some time. The other thing that's a trick to do is to make sure that the leather's flat, that there's a fleshy side and there's a shiny side. So you're going to want to make sure that the fleshy sides are together, and then when you feed this 3rd one through, it can be a little tight. So I do have to use pliers sometimes and try and squish the leather flat so that I can get it to feed through correctly. So here we are, we're finishing up and we're going to have that split ring all ready to go here shortly. I'm using binder clips just to help me keep my leather in place. So I have the split ring here where I'm trying to, as I fed that 3rd piece through, I wanted it to be absolutely even. It's going to be real critical that those leather laces lay flat, that they are exactly the same length. Otherwise it'll look funny when that bead gets pushed up against it. So I'm being really careful and using these clips in order to keep my leather right where I want them, and then I can take them off as I need. So now I am ready to start braiding. Well, what's 5 minutes of a video really actually took me an hour. And I can say that sometimes I'm a little faster than other times when I've pretty set and knowing what I want to do. But don't be afraid to spend your time to get the leash all set up. And yes, it does take time to do something right. I'm also taking my time here to get the right lay and the right layover of my leather lace. I have a shiny side and I have a fleshy side, and I'm going to be braiding with the shiny side towards me. I am going to be using a braiding technique that I learned when I was braiding horses, show horses. You can see I'm using the binder clip to every now and then give my hands a rest. And when I have a really tough string leather lace, I will dunk it in water. So that's why I'm wearing the gloves. It just helps me to keep my hands from turning black. Okay, and I'm hyperlapsing so that we can get through the braiding part. But there's a technique that I want to show you. If you can remember when we went to set this up, this is one solid string. What I'm trying to eliminate are knots at the end of my leash. Okay, here's the hack I want to show you. I have one continuous loop, which means if you're braiding, if you have any experience braiding, you know that as you braid them, you end up with this big giant knot at the bottom. Okay, I have one loose end that has not been fed through the beads, and as soon as I pull that leather lace out of that mess, you can see that they all completely fall away and become straight again. So that's your Dainty Acres hack on braiding. That will save you a ton of time, and it gives you the integrity and the strength of the leather all in one piece so that you don't have to have an unsightly knot at the end. What I will do, and you'll see when I go to come to the end of this leather leash, is I will braid that through and feed it through the beads, the jump rings, and then laminate it over just like I did that very first one. So let's get busy with some braiding. I'm going to add a bead in the middle of this right there at 14 inches. Specifically 14 inches because that's where the hand goes when you're in the show ring, where you can just feel for that and know how close you are to your dog. I already fed the beads in, so once I finished the braid where I want it, I then had to feed that third leather lace into those beads, and you're catching me now at the point where they are fed through, and I'm using the pliers and everything to pull those up and snug those up. So everything that I've braided as so far is now tightly set with the bead and the jump rings in place. So now I'm going to start braiding again, the remaining part of this leash. We'll do a little hyperlapse again so that you don't have to be bored to tears with the braiding process. The braiding process takes me, I take my time with it because I do have to wet it and I do have to let it soak. So it could take me a day or two. And I'll take my time with it because I'm very picky about how my braid lays. And I will stop and put a binder clip on it and give myself a break. Okay, we're coming to the end. And this is where I can demonstrate to you the final part of the hack I was explaining. How I use one leather 1/8 inch leather lace, all continuous. I start at the split ring where the martingale would be attached. I laminate it to that split ring, and then I feed a couple beads up to it. I go down to the bottom of the leash where the handle will be. I clip on another split ring, and then I start feeding that piece all the way through the first sets of beads up back into where the martingale would go and feed it through so that you end up with 3 strings. And 2 of them are going to be bound with the beads because the beads are set in place. And then this fine little tail here is the part where I was saying I like to keep myself 3 inches of leather lace at the end so that I can then tidy up the end. So I am now pulling that leather lace through the beads, and I have to do a lot of massaging. This part takes a while. This is why they're handmade, and this is why you are paying good money for a leather leash that's going to be not only just pretty in the show ring, but it's going to be functional. I'm taking a lot of time and attention here to make sure that when I go to laminate this part, it will be set exactly where you want it. So here is the finished product. In stock, I have 3-foot leashes. I have 6-foot leashes as well. I like the 6 foot, so when I'm in the show ring, I can let my dog out. Well, I sure hope that you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and like if you like what you see here.